Welcome back, everybody, to Niners Now. I'm your host, Brady Grustas, at Grustas Brady on X. You can follow me there. And we've got some big injury updates for the 49ers today. Take a sip if you've ever heard me say that one before. And of course, stick around until later in the show because it is time for the Week 11 Stock Report. We'll talk about who's playing well and who's not playing so well in this one. But of course, before we begin, go ahead and subscribe down below. The support has been amazing so far. If we can just get to 500 subscribers by December, that would be fantastic. We're very, very close. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And of course, leave a like, leave a comment, and let's get into it. So let's get right into it with these injury updates. Eddie Piñeiro, week to week with a hamstring injury, a grade 1 hamstring strain. Likely will not play this week against the Carolina Panthers, his former team. And that sucks. That's not great for the Niners. Eddie Piñeiro was one of the best parts of this team over the past 2 or 3 months or so. And losing him for any amount of time is not going to be ideal. Now, as far as I understand, we're very lucky that it's only a grade 1 hamstring strain. He should be able to come back before the end of the season comfortably and kick at 100%. But we shall see. And in the meantime, the 49ers are going to have to grab a new kicker. Stick around until later in the show when we talk about some potential Piñeiro replacement options. And that was not the end of it for injuries. Tatum Bethune also out multiple weeks with a high ankle sprain. He is not likely to go on injured reserve, according to the 49ers, but he should miss at least 1 week. Brutal. Just brutal. The 49ers have lost their starting and now their backup middle linebacker. Curtis Robinson was able to come back into the game on Sunday, which is good because he'll be starting now for San Francisco. Definitely not where the 49ers wanted to be at this point in the year. I suppose the 49ers may also consider bringing in a linebacker as well to back up Curtis Robinson. Because if Curtis Robinson gets hurt, you don't have another Mike on your roster. You can't, in good conscience, play D. Winters or Luke Gifford at Mike. I just do not trust him to do so. And Nick Martin, you also can't play him at Mike. He just made his NFL debut on Sunday, and it's just too big a responsibility to have him call the defensive plays. So, again, stick around until later when we talk about some potential linebacker replacements. On top of that, Robert Beal is in the concussion protocol at edge. Hopefully he'll be able to play this week. I know sometimes guys in the concussion protocol will play the same week. Sometimes they won't. Sometimes it takes a week or two. So we'll see what happens with Beal. He's kind of had a couple of good plays recently. He's not bad. Well, he's not as bad as he used to be. He's a solid to above average special teams contributor. And now that he's actually getting snaps on defense, you start to see some things every once in a while from Robert Beal. So this is not great news on that front either. Linebacker and edge rusher just continuing to get decimated for the 49ers injury-wise. We do have some more updates about guys who are currently injured, though. Wide receiver Jacob Cowing should return after the Week 14 bye. That's coming up. You've got the Panthers and then the Browns and then the bye week. So only a couple more games until we see Jacob Cowing back on the field. It'll be interesting to see if he takes the return job back from Sky Moore. I kind of doubt it with how Sky Moore looked against the Cardinals. Had that amazing return, obviously. But we'll see. We'll see what Cowing can do. He looked great long ago, back in August, in the early parts of training camp before dealing with this nagging hamstring injury. And then our weekly Brandon Ayuk update. He will not be activated this week. He's not going to come back. Still no specific timeline on the Brandon Ayuk front. And again, this is an if at this point, not a when. We're not talking about when Brandon Ayuk comes back. We're talking about if. And I get that you don't want to rush him back, but at a certain point, are they not rushing him or are they not playing him? It's impossible for us to know. We don't talk to the team doctors. We don't have medical records. We don't have anything like that. So no matter what people tell you, if anyone is telling you this is the definitive truth about Brandon Ayuk, they are lying to you. None of us can know, right? None of us have the information. The only people who have the information are Brandon Ayuk, Kyle Shanahan in the 49ers front office, and the medical staff. Those are the guys who know. And if you're listening to anybody else, including me, nobody else will know the real definitive answer. So proceed with caution when absorbing Brandon Ayuk takes over the next couple weeks or so. Now, let's get into the Week 11 stock report, starting with our stock up players. Let's talk about a few guys who played really, really well against the Cardinals. First up, it's Brock Purdy, man. First game back, his best game of the year, no turnovers, only one turnover-worthy play. We needed Brock to impress against Arizona, and he did. He came out firing. He did not look limited by the toe at all. He wasn't forcing the issue too much. He threw some passes away, which is good. I like to see that. You don't want him to play hero ball, right? You just want him to take what the defense gives him, and just so happens that the Arizona defense was feeling very giving on Sunday. So Brock was fantastic. Very happy to have him back, hoping that can continue. Next up, Kalia Davis, man, led the team in pressures with, I believe, 4. Now, did not get a sack. It's not like the 49ers pressure unit is really any good, but Davis also had a couple nice run stops. He looked very explosive on the interior. He's an inconsistent player, but this is the kind of game where you look at him and you're like, wow, okay, this dude could be a potential future starter for the 49ers, like long term. Having a guy who is a real pass rush threat from the interior would be massive. We've been looking for that for a long time now. And we had one great year of Javon Hargrave and not much else. So Kalia Davis turning into that homegrown type of talent would be massive for the 49ers, but he's got to be consistent about it. He's got to really pump out these good performances week in and week out to become that kind of guy. And now, speaking of week in and week out, let's talk about a guy who got his first action on defense in his entire career. Nick Martin got 14 snaps on defense on Sunday, the first ones of his career, and he was the starting Sam linebacker. So there was a lot of conversation, obviously, about Luke Gifford last week and how he cannot continue to be the Sam linebacker. And the coaching staff agreed. They put Nick Martin out there. Now, the Sam is, it's a pretty minor role to speak. It's a backup role, essentially. Sam linebackers are not starters in the NFL anymore. They are role players, right? And so 14 snaps is not a surprise. It's not a surprise that the Sam linebacker got 14 snaps on Sunday. They're not trying to slow play him or anything. He was the Sam linebacker. He just only happened to play 14 snaps. But he did have 5 solo tackles and a couple of really nice plays, including a great one to blow up a 2-point conversion for Arizona. Definitely plenty of work to do for Nick Martin, but he's getting on the field and he's showing some flashes. And I'm happy with that at this point in Nick Martin's career, because I think if he could just get better and better, that would be fantastic. He's not playing next to Fred Warner. He's not playing on a particularly good defense with a lot of amazing talent around him, right? So any good that he shows here should translate to next season when you've got Bosa and Fred and Michael Williams and all these guys back out there on defense. Now, unfortunately, we got to talk about some guys who are lowering their stock. And to me, that starts with Renardo Green. Green played all right on Sunday, but he was temporarily benched after his unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. And the coaches were pissed. Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh were letting him have it on the sidelines. It was not a good look for Renardo Green. That's a really easy way to lose snaps. You've got to keep your aggression and your anger under control. That was the only penalty on the entire day for San Francisco. Renardo, of course, did come back into the game later, but he's got to keep himself in check. This cannot become a recurring issue. This needs to be a one-off thing because the Niners really need Renardo to play well if they want any semblance of winning a playoff game. Next up, Kevin Givens actually didn't play Sunday because he was a surprise healthy scratch. Last week against the Rams, he was outsnapped by CJ West, and this week against the Cardinals, he didn't play at all. The 49ers usually run with 4 defensive tackles, and it's clear that Givens is the 5th on their depth chart. And this raises the question, Is he potentially done as a 49er? You have to assume that guys like Kalia Davis and Jordan Elliott would be higher priorities to re-sign for this team, considering that Elliott and Davis both play more than Givens does, and they've been playing more than he does all year long. Givens has been with the team a long time. I believe since 2019. He was a UDFA signing, been with the team forever. It feels like he just keeps signing one-year deals over and over. We'll see if he does that again, because it is nice to have some good depth and a guy who's very familiar with the system. But this is not a good look for Kevin Givens. He could be playing for his job over the next month or so. And last but not least, I'm going to go with Spencer Burford. Now, if you've been paying attention, Burford and Ben Bartch have sort of had this left guard battle going on. Both of them played a pretty even amount of snaps on Sunday. Burford had 29, while Bartch had 28, and both were pretty good in pass protection. However, if you look at the run block win percentage stat from Week 11, Burford was the worst guard in the NFL with run block win rate. That's kind of a hard one to say. Run block win rate. Burford was the lowest qualifying guard in the NFL in that category, and Ben Bartch was the very best in the NFL in run block win rate. So it does seem like the tide is turning, and Ben Bartch might be close to earning that spot once again. However, Burford's not exactly playing terrible. I thought he was clearly not very good against the run, and I think the tape backed that up. He didn't look as dominant as he did against the Giants. But it's good to know that Burford can play guard and can play a little bit of tackle. He's a valuable swing piece for this offensive line, and he's a guy that I'd like the 49ers to keep around for longer than just this season, because he's played pretty solid so far this year, all things considered. Now, that's the end of our stock report segment. As a recap, Brock Purdy, Kalia Davis, Nick Martin raising their stock, while Renardo Green, Kevin Givens, and Spencer Burford are lowering their stocks. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there anybody that I forgot about? Let me know in the comments section down below. And now we've got one more segment, and I want to talk about some reinforcements. I want to talk about some free agents that the 49ers should consider signing, specifically at the kicker and linebacker positions, right? Obviously, Eddie Pinheiro and Tatum Bethune both went down against the Cardinals, so the 49ers are going to need some depth. And in the case of a kicker, they're going to need a starter, right? You can't have Thomas Morstead or Kyle Juszczyk or whoever out there kicking. You do need a kicker. According to Matt Barrows, John Parker Romo and some other kickers are expected to work out for the 49ers today, on Tuesday, when you're seeing this video. So that'll be interesting. John Parker Romo ended up signing with Atlanta earlier on this season. He spent some time with the Vikings, but he signed with Atlanta after they missed out on Eddie Pinheiro, actually. Eddie Pinheiro chose the 49ers over the Falcons, and instead, the Falcons went and signed John Parker Romo. Now, Parker Romo was not very good for Atlanta, and they ended up cutting him and going with another former 49er, Zane Gonzalez. But now John Parker Romo is looking for a spot here in San Francisco. We don't know yet who else is expected to be part of that workout. Maybe you'll know by the time you see this video, but a couple of guesses. I have to imagine that a guy named Anders Carlson will be involved in that search. Carlson was actually a 49er last year. After Jake Moody went down, there was the whole kicking search with Matthew Wright, who came in first. Then he got injured making a tackle on a kickoff, and the 49ers had to go to Anders Carlson, who played, I think, 2 games for the 49ers, hit 2 50-plus yard field goals, then was let go once Jake Moody returned. Carlson then went to play for the Jets and Brant Boyer. So there's familiarity not only with the 49ers, but with Brant Boyer for Anders Carlson. And he's probably my favorite candidate at this point. You're obviously looking for a pretty short-term guy. You have to assume that Eddie Pinheiro will be back fairly soon. But regardless, you need a guy with a little bit of range and a guy that you know, a guy with some familiarity, right? So hopefully Anders Carlson is the guy that the 49ers do choose. Some other guys that I would consider, these guys I'm not sure about because they're both on other teams' practice squads. That's Matthew Wright, who we just talked about, right? Who kicked pretty well for the 49ers before injuring, I think, his shoulder or something. And then rookie Ben Sauls, who's on the Steelers practice squad. He got a lot of hype at the roster cutdown period. given that the Steelers have Chris Boswell. They brought in this rookie, Ben Sauls. He kicked very well. And then no team went after him at the cutdown, and he's just sitting on the Steelers practice squad, interestingly enough. But the thing with Wright and Sauls is that you'd have to make room on the 53-man roster to sign one of those guys. You can't really poach a guy off the practice squad without making room on the 53. And considering that it doesn't sound like Eddie Pinheiro is going to go on IR, I don't think that that is super likely. So I think it is more likely they'll go with a guy like John Parker Romo, like Anders Carlson, like another candidate, Austin Seibert. 3 guys who are not on a practice squad right now. They're totally unsigned and could come in and just use up a practice squad spot. If Pinheiro misses 3 weeks, these kickers get 3 standard elevations from the practice squad. Let's say it's Carlson, for example. You sign Carlson, he gets to play the next 3 weeks free of charge on the practice squad, and then hopefully by then Pinheiro is back, and you do not have to, elevate Carlson and use up that 53-man roster spot. So definitely something to keep an eye on. They'll be doing tryouts today on Tuesday, so I expect to hear about that news pretty soon. And then at linebacker, they're looking for a Mike, right? They're looking for Mike depth. They've got their outside linebackers, if you will, their weak side and their strong side linebackers. You've got Nick Martin, you've got D. Winters, you've got Luke Gifford, but they need a guy on the inside. It's only Curtis Robinson there. So I wonder if they would go with a younger guy like Jalen Graham, who's currently on the 49ers practice squad, or potentially Stone Blanton, who's spent some time with the practice squad, but he's been on and off throughout the year. I believe currently not signed to the Niners practice squad. I wonder if they'd go with a young guy like that, or maybe they go after a veteran. Maybe a guy like Jawan Bentley, who's under 30 years old, I believe, and has played a ton of time for the New England Patriots, was a tackle machine a while back. Kaiser White, who played some good years with the Arizona Cardinals. Or maybe they bring back Unk himself, Quan Alexander. If you remember, Quan Alexander was really the one to sort of kick off this era of elite linebacker play. It was Quan, and it was Fred, and it was Dre Greenlaw on that 2019 Super Bowl run. And for a while, Quan was the best linebacker on that team. Now, eventually, he did get overtaken by Fred Warner, turning into the superstar that he has become. But Quan was a great 49er. He was a really solid player. He's got familiarity with the scheme. I'd love to see him back, even if it is only for a couple of weeks, in the red and gold. I think that'd be super fun. So that's all for today, folks. How are you feeling after the massive win for the 49ers on Sunday? And who do you think the Niners should sign at kicker? And should they go sign a linebacker? Should they go get a Quan Alexander, a Jawan Bentley? Or should they elevate a guy like Jalen Graham or Stone Blanton? Let me know down below in the comments. And of course, let me know if you enjoyed. Leave a comment, leave a like, and let me know if there's any topics that you'd like to see me cover. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe for 49ers videos 5 days a week. I'm Brady Grustas, at Grustas Brady on X. This has been Niners Now, and I'll see you tomorrow.